I saw something that if you like spray some kind of vinegar solution on them, that'll like help.
Yeah,
But-
I'll look at the ICAM. It will help.
It'll help.
And you don't.
I saw something that if you like spray some kind of vinegar, there's a delay on that.
Yes, there is. Either that or there's another.
Okay, thanks everybody for your patience while we got that. Okay.
All right, calling this meeting to order. We have a motion to approve the minutes from May 14th.
So moved.
Those will be corrected. Amy's name needs to be corrected, the spelling.
AIMEE. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. After, but yeah, okay. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last month? Aside from changing Amy's name spelling?
So moved.
Second.
All right, librarian's report.
I emailed a report covering activities at the library during mainly the month of May, and then also giving information about some upcoming programs. Registration for our summer reading program is now open, and we've had right around 100 folks register so far. So if you have not already done so, please join us in our summer reading fun. There are activities for all different types of interests and ages upcoming in June. We are having Miss Pearl's Circus Palooza. We are going to start doing a weekly gaming social on Fridays at noon, and Drea is hosting a series of Friday night murder mystery games. So lots of fun things happening. Drea also deserves kudos because she was selected to participate in a national forum on community learning to reduce substance use in May, and her participation in that program, the cost of that was covered by the program itself, and so that was a great learning opportunity that staff got to participate in. And Drea has done quite a lot of work with local groups to support folks who are in recovery. We also partner with groups like HIV Alliance on a regular basis, provide naloxone training in the library, and so it's her work before this forum that really got her there. And so great learning opportunity, and really proud of her work in that area. We are onboarding lots of teen interns this month, so we're working with a new student through Alternative Youth Activities, AYA. We had worked with them prior to the renovation, had really great experiences with their internship program, and so we brought someone new on board. We also decided to hire 2 teen interns this summer. One of those is grant funded through the State Library of Oregon, and we just had 2 really outstanding candidates that we couldn't choose from in the interview process. And we had some little bit of extra funding left in our library budget as we round out the end of the year, and so I decided that we wanted to go ahead and give an opportunity to 2 youth this summer. So they will be starting work next week.
Great. Cool.
And will be with us for 8 weeks over the summer.
Very fun.
The children's room window replacement is as scheduled. Starting work this week. We expect that it's going to take about 3 weeks to get that window in, and this is as pretty much as extensive as the interruption for library service is going to be. There's noise. If you go in the room right now, you guys can feel the breeze and you can hear the traffic. And they will have to spend a couple of days on the tail end doing finishing work inside. So installing a built-in shelving unit there below the new window, installing the carpeting in that space, and a few other things that will be a little bit of an inconvenience for those who are visiting the library, but I've been told that it won't be necessary for us to close the room. So that's great. And then the other item is that I wanted to talk about today is that I am currently reviewing proposals for a strategic planning process. So the library last drafted a strategic plan in 2020, and we have reached the end of that chronologically, and then also we have accomplished most of the major items that were outlined in that plan. In particular, the focus was on renovating the library. And so it's time for us to go through that process again. So I've been meeting with consultants. I have applied for a grant to help us pay for the cost of it. And so I'm just waiting on those particular pieces to come together so that we can make a decision about who we want to move forward with and set up a timeline for that. But it is something that the library board will be involved with. Once we have selected our consultant, we'll have a special planning meeting with the board members, we'll have meetings with staff, and then we'll also have community forums. So that's something to look forward to this fall. That's my library report. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Just out of curiosity, who's installing the window? Is it someone locally, or did you have to like get like approved? Does like just have to be like approved library window installer?
It is a little bit complicated. So we are doing that as a change order on the renovation project because we discovered the problem during the course of the regular primary renovation project. Also, because of contracting laws, it is much easier to accommodate things under a change order for an existing contract rather than having to go out for bid and go through that whole process for a separate, distinct project. So thankfully, we were able to incorporate it within the limits of our original project because we had minimal change orders. Otherwise, you can have a maximum amount, basically, of change orders. And so we fit within that. Great news. We worked with Ordell as the general contractor to subcontract out the work. They had a very difficult time finding a subcontractor, specifically a roofer, who would take on a very small project like that is, and that could meet the requirements for Oregon's prevailing wage.
Okay.
So there are extra steps that a contractor has to take when working on a public works project related to reporting and paying their employees. So I don't think that the folks who are actually completing the work are Coos Bay and North Bend.
Yeah, I was just curious. It's just interesting how quickly that could just get super complicated.
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of steps to consider.
And then so the game night on Fridays, is that like board games or is that like video games as well, or?
So the games at noon are going to be card games or board games.
Okay.
And then at night, it's like a murder mystery party. So the people who attend are the characters in the game.
That's cool. Is it every Friday? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Yes, Fridays at 6 p.m., June 20th through August 1st. No session on the 4th of July.
There should be one that's like a period themed one and everyone like dresses up. I'm super into that.
I know
Yeah.
she's got, the ones that she listed in the report are Death at a Dive Bar and Murder at Influencer.
Yeah. So it starts June 20th.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm gonna put this on my calendar.
And what time is that, just out of curiosity?
The Friday night mysteries are at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And they should last about 2 hours. Should be 6 to 8.
So with sorry for all the questions, with the team thing, we had like, there was a team, was it last summer or 2 summers ago that was here?
Mhm.
Is it gonna be like, are the teams gonna be doing the same kind of stuff, or like, are you like building on the team's thing, or, I'm just curious just because like, I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah. It will be a very similar position to what we had last year.
Okay.
The grant that we received from the state library comes with some requirements, and the main part of that is what is called a connected learning project. So we work with the team to develop their own ideas, aligning their personal interests and goals with library service to either add or improve an element of public service at the library. So last year, our intern was really interested in writing. And so she planned and hosted a team writing workshop
Okay.
at the end of the summer.
Was that, Goslin?
And so this year, the two students that we're working with will get to go through that process again, where they meet with Jordan, who is our young adult specialist on staff. They'll talk through the kids' ideas for what their connected learning project might be. They'll have weekly check-in meetings with Jordan about that and dedicated time on their schedule to work on their project. It usually involves some element of research, so learning about how libraries present that service or program in other places. Has it been done before? What sorts of things are required to plan a program? It might require some element of outreach. And then they'll work with Jordan to plan and execute whatever their project or program is. So students around the state have done lots of different things. There was a kid in one of the other cities that received a grant who was much more technology focused, and he set up laptops and a laptop lending program for the library. And so there could be all sorts of different things that the kids could come up with that they might be interested in.
I'd be interested to know what the teams think about how to get more participation with the Switch.
Mhm. We are having a fair amount of people come in. We have a regular group now that they're here every Friday.
Really?
Yeah, every Friday after early dismissal, they're here. And so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Jordan has a program coming up, I believe it's next week, that is with the gaming system. We're actually going to take it into the meeting room so they have more space to spread out and do it more tournament style. So she is going to be incorporating it into programming this summer, but it is nice because we have had kids in and using it, and we have that regular group now on Friday, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. It's one of those things you kind of like would hope would happen because it's just like the school's right there. It's completely, you know. Yeah. And then what's that TV?
So that came with that study booth. So the booth is sponsored by Southern
Okay.
Oregon Workforce Investment Board, and that is their TV on it.
So like the kids, do they like who?
It's channel one for me.
So those,
dads.
my
Just
understanding is that those businesses provide support for the Workforce Investment Board. And we are still working with their staff to get everything set up. But we will have a login to submit our own content to go on the television. So we'll be able to use it to advertise library things like that.
Yeah,
I was
'cause
gonna
I
say,
guess-
otherwise turn it the other way, you know, put it on.
Yeah.
Face the back of the.
Yeah.
Can I ask what the library staff feels about the TV?
I haven't heard any comments about it.
It's just like, it's so natural to, like, it just sucks. It's just like, you know,
Yeah.
it just like, it's just so automatic. Okay. So, anyone else have any
So
questions? All right. Library district report.
I do not have a district report. We
Really?
haven't had any.
Wow.
I thought at the last meeting you said you were gonna have a meeting like.
We did, and there really wasn't anything other than day-to-day sort of business, navigating the catalog.
That's nice.
Those sorts of
That's
things.
very
that came
nice.
Yeah.
up. Yeah, nothing to report.
Interesting. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It's sort of like, it's just like library related. So if you're a librarian in Coquille, is it, so my daughter goes to this daycare that's in Coos Bay, technically it's in Coos Bay, but it's like near Coquille. And the Coquille librarian is gonna come out and do like a story time once a week. How does that, like, I would assume that that's like not how, like, they would want Coos Bay to do that stuff. Or is that like, in order to like kind of impact their numbers and, I mean, it's obviously good for the kids and some, but I just mean like, it's very rare to see one librarian do something in their own program in another town. I know North Bend Coos Bay, I was at the Mayfly Festival, I saw Laura with like a library booth. So is it like, are there any concerns about that kind of thing? Or like, no, it's just like great, the librarians or do librarian stuff.
I would say that is generally handled or decided on library to library.
Okay.
So that would be something between Coquille and Coos Bay. it is something that I regularly communicate with Coos Bay about. And that Sammy and I decide together. So the Mayfly Festival is an example of how we actually staff that together with Coos Bay Public Library. So when there are opportunities that we feel like it would be beneficial, or I feel like it'd be beneficial for North Bend to be represented there, I try, but it's in Coos Bay, I try to coordinate with the Coos Bay Library to make sure that we are complementing whatever they're doing. Sammy vice versa. Today, she actually called me this afternoon. It's funny you asked because she called me this afternoon. She said, hey, the village preschool that's in the mall just called me and asked about coming to do a story time, but that's in your area. Do you want to take this? And so it is really something that we have to deal with on a library to library.
Yeah, so I guess my whole thing is like knowing different personalities. Is this something that like might ruffle feathers? But not our problem. Just,
Yeah.
it's just interesting to think about especially in our community, how that stuff works. It'd be interesting to hear about it in a future library district report. All right, old business.
We do not have any old business on our agenda today.
New business?
Okay, I wanted to have a preliminary discussion with you today about the library's operating hours. I prepared an introductory memo for you that I sent with your board packet. In the coming months, I'm going to be assessing the library's services, in particular our hours. I recognize at this point that it may be necessary to adjust our library hours for a variety of different reasons. Some of those, the most important ones, I outlined for you in the memo. And so I just wanted to begin that conversation with you today. I think it's important that the library board be given the opportunity to provide input when we make major changes to public service. It's been quite a long time since the library's hours were changed. Probably somewhere around 8 years since the hours changed. Immediately prior to that, let's say 12 to 8 years ago, within that period, the library's hours actually changed several times due to even more serious staffing issues. And so I think that it's something that we should consider carefully, but we also have to recognize our limitations and what our resources are and make sure that we are using those in the best way possible to serve the community. So that's my introduction. Now we can get to discuss it.
So a lot of the considerations are staffing hours, right?
Yes.
Are those flexible enough to flip people around and move them to a more, I don't know, I guess the busier times like you addressed in the memo?
I think so. We discussed this at our last staff meeting. That was about a month ago. And the staff in general were really positive about looking at this and taking it into consideration. We would not change the quantity of hours that people are working. We would just redistribute those out through the week. I think some possibilities in modifying the schedule could be that we might be closed on a weekday. So one of the days, Monday through Friday. That is actually pretty typical. I've looked at what other libraries in the state of Oregon do. That's pretty typical. That would give our full-time staff a day for administrative tasks and planning, where we weren't having to staff our public service desks. And then part-time staff would actually probably not be scheduled to work on that day. Their schedules would be more oriented to staffing our service desks. As I noted, we don't currently offer any evening hours, and we have pretty solid attendance on Saturday mornings. And I do often hear from the public, no formal requests, but just anecdotally that it would be nice if we were open for more hours on Saturday.
So I have a comment about the evening hours. I lived in Hauser when my daughter was going to high school, and she was doing a lot of play practices. And it was so wonderful to have her be able to come here from the, from play practice. If she was in high school here, and then I could pick her up after my work, or if she was doing the Liberty Theater, she would actually stay here until it was time to go. And then I only had to make one more trip in from Hauser instead of 3 trips during the day. So those kinds of things, I think you would see an increase, I would think, and if you had evening hours. I know I use them quite a bit. I mean, and it's after work for everybody.
Yeah,
Almost.
Almost, well, what work, what is work?
well, what is work, but I work evenings when I work, so.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah.
But, yeah, most people.
I've got a
Well-
question.
Gail?
Um, what, is there any possibility of making it possible to have events in the big meeting room that are outside of, the library open hours?
Yes. Gail, are you asking about library programs or are you asking about public use of the room?
Public use of the room.
We will be able to resume that once the construction project is finished.
Okay.
Right now, we are not able to allow people to use the rooms after hours. Or actually, we are not taking any public reservations for the rooms right now because we have been waiting on the construction project to finish. So they still need to complete some work in these spaces and we don't have that scheduled. So we didn't want to commit to allow an outside group to use the room if we may have contractors coming in to do work during that time.
Got it. And would there be a requirement for a library staffer to be there?
No, that is not part of our meeting room policy or our procedures.
Just if it's a library event, not a
That's right.
public, all right.
So I was gonna ask, are there staff who maybe have indicated they don't mind working a different shift? You know, say we stay open till 8, like, that's not gonna completely disrupt their life or,
We haven't talked about it in that detail.
okay,
Yeah, that's probably the best way to answer it. We haven't
Okay.
talked about it in that detail.
Would we coordinate with Coos Bay well? I mean, so that if we were open, say we were open Saturday mornings and they were open Saturday afternoon, or although I think they're open all day Saturday. Or, you know, the library's open Monday and Wednesday night here and it's open Tuesday and Thursday night or something with Coos Bay. So for those of us who live in town, it's an either or which library I go to.
We would definitely do that. And
Okay,
right now, we did coordinate our existing Saturday hours. So North Bend is open from 10 to 1 and Coos Bay is open they open at noon. I don't remember what time they close,
Okay.
but I know they open at noon. So we did try to stagger those hours. That was the last time our hours were adjusted was actually, we did slightly adjust our Saturday hours at some point when we were reopening during the pandemic. Previously, I don't remember the exact date, but before 2020, we were open from 10 to 2 on Saturdays. And we actually did shorten that to 10 to 1. The reason that I did that was because it was a half shift. So for staffing reasons, in particular for part-time staff, when you are working that 4-hour shift, we don't have to deal with lunches. And those sorts of things. And it was nice to just say, okay, you're coming in to work 4 hours on Saturday morning. It's basically a half shift. It was nice and simple for scheduling. But, I think the staff and our initial discussions, it was very similar to this one, just introducing the idea. They were generally positive about the possibility and I think seem to understand the potential that we have in expanding hours on Saturday because they also hear from the public about those sorts of things. We're currently open 44 hours per week.
So the idea would be extend some Saturday hours, maybe extend a couple days during the week by like an hour. And and then take away maybe one of the weekdays.
I think so.
I think, like, my opinion would be, if you're gonna try that, maybe like, just throwing out here, like, as like, if you're thinking like, get them in a Tuesday or whatever. Maybe start off like a slow roll it and do like a half day Tuesday, instead of just, you know, doing cold turkey, no Tuesdays. I guess my only thing would be like, and obviously weekends are better for people, but there might be people who like, man, Tuesday's their day, you know, and like that's the only day, like, 'cause, like, I don't know, with me and my schedule, there are certain days that are way better for me to do stuff than other days. So I would just be worried about alienating the Tuesday people or whatever. So like a slow roll, doing like a half day on Tuesdays might be something to consider. Do we have data from the thing that we walked through to go
Yes.
beep? So even if it doesn't go beep, we have data.
Yes, and we actually I had new sensors installed in the lobby that give me it may be minute by minute. I mean, it's definitely hour by hour breakdown of the people who come in and exit the building. So I'm able to get much more detailed information about how people are using the library at what times, how long they spend in the building. All that sort of data is now available.
So right now we're open 44 hours. In a new system, we would stay 44 hours, is that?
No, we really do probably need to reduce the number of hours that we're open to the public. Really because of those staffing numbers. So I have to have a certain number of people on the desk and available to provide public service, at least 3 to have the building open. At any point in time, there need to be at least 3 people in the building if we're going to open the doors to the public. And that is super, super tight. Anything, you know, that even brings up, you know, potential safety concerns. So we previously, as I said, 5 years ago, we had 11.21 budgeted full-time positions. And this year we're going to be working with 8.25. So that's 120 hours per week that we do not have of staff time. So it's a really big number. When you break that down to the number of hours that we have people available in the building, that's 120 hours that are no longer available across the work week in staff time.
So what's, how many people are working here at one time, potentially the largest number you would see? Because it's 132 hours for 3, I mean, I know that's cutting it
Yeah.
minimum. It'd be 132 hours for a 44-hour week for 3 people. What,
On a typical day, we have 7 people in the building. That's 7 bodies,
Right.
and the FTE of that is about 6.
Okay.
Roughly 6, because we have our 5 full-time staff, and we generally have 2 part-time staff members who are working each day. So that would mean that the FTE scheduled on a day would be 6.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're trying to get down to 40, 42, like what's the?
That's a really difficult question. I think if we were if we were to take out a weekday and expand the hours as we discussed on Saturdays, add a later evening during the week, we will probably land somewhere around probably 37 or 38 hours per week.
Are we worried about the numbers going down?
We would definitely choose the least attended day
Yeah.
to take out.
do you know what the day is? Yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. the staff are stressed, trying to get their programs done, trying to juggle service at the desk. I think we would be able to offer better programs if they had more planning time. And my expectation would be that yes, we would initially lose a little bit of circulation and we would lose a little bit of attendance, but we're already down. We haven't rebounded from reopening yet. And so I think if we're going to make a change, this is a good time to do it within the next 6 months or so, rather than wait until we've rebuilt where we were before. I think it would be wise to go ahead and make a change perhaps in the fall. And so we would just be, in my mind, setting a new starting point to rebuild from.
So if they had, say we reduced some hours so that they could, I mean, you jumped from 307 to 371 programs. To improve the quality of those programs, which would probably bring in more people. That might be the factor of the benefits of that.
And I think if we were just going off of the numbers, the attendance numbers from last month, the lowest attendance day last month was Monday. If I could take out Monday and double the number that I had on Saturday by doubling the hours, we would be really close to the same attendance overall.
Is there any reason to think that the FTE hours, whatever language, is there any reason to think that's gonna change at all? Like, within the next year, is it gonna get better, is it gonna get worse? Because I guess what I would be worried about is, so the numbers from reopening aren't where we want them to be. If we were to change the schedule, I would be worried about it spiraling and we have less hours. Less hours would mean less funding for the library. So I would just worry about this, spiraling and becoming, in an effort to make programs better, I'm just worried about the library suffering.
I understand, and it is about right sizing things. So finding that balance between among those different factors. The FTE is only going to become more challenging because of the overall funding issues with property taxes in Oregon. So the new revenue that we get as a library district, it doesn't matter how you divide it up among the libraries, isn't sufficient for any of us to maintain our current level of operations long-term. I don't remember off the top of my head, but just kind of harking back to our budget discussions, the amount of new revenue we're gonna get from the library district is in the tens of thousands, and our personnel rising cost is like 3 times that, what we're actually gonna get in new revenue from the district. So regardless of how our funding formula works out, we're going to have to deal with the fact that our revenue is not going to keep up with our expenses. And really the only way, or the only place that we have to manage those expenses in a significant way is through personnel, because the costs are, it's expensive. They are our most important asset, and our staff do deserve to be compensated and deserve the benefits that we give them, and all of that is important. But the reality is that proportionally, that's such a huge percentage of our budget. It costs as much to have a full-time employee as it does for our one full-time employee is almost exactly the same as our book budget, our entire book budget. So it's something that we have to reckon with.
So I guess my next thing would be like, if we were to do this, I think it'd be like really good to like revisit it in a year. Like look at, okay, did this work? Did it not work? And
Definitely.
like move forward accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point.
I would say rip off the Band-Aid, let's pick a day. If you're
Yeah.
saying Monday, let's just do it. And, you know, going into it eyes wide open, we just reopened, you're still in the upswing versus the, you know, the financial part of it. If Monday's our slowest day, I would say we close. Cause we just can't keep bleeding.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen.
Has to be cut.
Mhm. So do I make that motion or do we wanna discuss more?
Well, it's
Or how you wanna do
actually,
it?
I think, so the decision to set the hours is actually an administrative decision.
Okay.
So, I'll take your input into consideration, and if it's not something that the board will vote on,
Okay,
it's an advisory issue, so, you know, we've had a good discussion today. I really appreciate everyone sharing your thoughts, and I think that in the coming weeks, if you have things that you would like to add to the discussion or want to discuss it further with me, please reach out and we can do that. I'm going to probably monitor our usage statistics for the next couple of months. Changing the hours requires a lot on the staff side of things because we already have programs in the works planned and on the calendar for even moving into September. And so we'll be looking at how those existing plans align with the potential of changing the hours. And of course, I'll need to consult with the city administrator because that is a big change for public service and we will receive public feedback about it. That's to be expected. Because we'll have people who are, you know, pleased if we expand hours on Saturday and who will be upset if we're not open on Tuesdays. So we will, you know, prepare to receive any feedback that we get and make sure that our messaging is clear. I think that it is important that if we are going to reduce hours, that we realign them with what we think is community need. So, you know,
So,
kind of
yeah,
recognizing like,
usage.
okay, Saturdays are popular, we do receive requests for this, so, you know, this is what we are going to do so that we can serve you better on Saturdays. It will require us to do this during the week. So I will keep you updated on the decision-making process and you can let me know if you have any other thoughts on this matter.
I do have another thought. Are you flexible enough to open maybe later on Saturday and stay open later and during the week to open later than 10? Is that ever an option?
I think
to look
so. I think so. And I will also be talking with staff about it and getting their input on what they hear from people and how they think it would work for scheduling. All those sorts of things will be taken into consideration.
Any other comments? Public input.
We do not have anyone registered for public input today.
All right. So now we get really controversial. Do we take off July or August?
You could vote on this.
I'd probably say take off July, but also we have, I mean, there are things that we've been saying that we're gonna talk about. Like the hours, also like the handbook is probably gonna come up again soon, so.
But there's a lot of administrative work to be done on most of the things that we've talked about, so either meeting would be fine.
I will be at an Oregon School Board meeting in August. I don't know if I'll be able to, I'll have time to be able to come in online or.
I could be on fire anywhere,
That's right.
but I can try
That could
to
be
zoom
July
in, yeah,
or
it could be
August.
or September or, yeah.
I'm open for anything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance I'm not around in July, but. Yeah, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So then,
Gail, do you have a preference?
It'd be fine with me to take off July or whatever other people want.
If we take off July, I would just say that like, it would be good to like have communication about like any major major changes that are happening to the library, you know, I don't want like, all of a sudden, like, we're meeting in August and it's just like, we're closed Monday through Friday, well, it's Saturday, Sunday, woo, you know? New handbook, here you go.
I
But
don't see anything to that.
but yeah, my worry would it's just, that's a lot of time, you know? I don't even know if I'm gonna be in 2 months, so, I'm just kidding, but,
Well, it sounds, I'll try to be the consensus builder. So I hear that Charlotte has a definite conflict in August. And so perhaps we should meet in July and then take off in August, if that is the definite conflict that I have heard in the room.
Sure.
Okay, so we will meet on July 9th.
All of you.
And you will be in a fire by August, probably.
Right, and that July 9th works because I come back from my vacation just a few days before that, so I probably won't get called
Oh, yeah.
for at least a week, so I'm probably 90% sure I can make that meeting.
so I was just making sure there wasn't a dog in the thing that's
Yeah,
attached.
it's really interesting, that isn't.
All right,
Ready to adjourn?
adjournment, so we are meeting July 9th.
Mhm.
All right.
Still the same time, 5 o'clock?
Thank you,
It
Gail.
works.
Great.
So, Gail.